Hey guys, thanks so much and welcome to the Game Your Future podcast. I'm Daniel and we're here to help gamers realize their full potential. And today I have a special guest for you. This is Jerry Borsch, who's from the
Yes.
Czech Republic and is a teacher of English and is an avid gamer. Yeah, board games, paper games, Magic the Gathering, and some video games and including some old school after my own heart, right? It's old like DOS games too. So fantastic. So Jerry, thanks so much and welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm very well. Thank you, Daniel, for having me. Thank you very much. Greetings from the Czech Republic in the middle of the Europe. From the Plzeň, this is a beer town, not in the capital city of Prague. I'm now currently in Plzeň. This is famous for Pilsner Urquell, the beer, which is, believe, famous in the whole world.
Fantastic. Yeah, and so thank you for being here. And so wanted to talk, of course, gaming and how that's helped you. And from our talk previously, you have done a lot of gaming in your life, and you use gaming in teaching, right? So I wanted to start just kind of your journey on gaming, and then I'd love to get into the discussion of how gaming has helped you in the classroom to teach English. But yeah, so
Yes.
so starting at the beginning, how long have you gamed and what have you played?
When I was in 1993 in America with a trip with my school, I was 13 years old, and I discovered that there is a between Manhattan and Brooklyn, I believe it was in a dangerous part. I didn't know that it was dangerous because I alone ventured in the afternoon to that part. And I discovered a great club there. This was called Zero Ground, and they played Magic. I got my first cards there. I remember these were some expensive cards back then, and like Dual Lands and Demonic Tutor and stuff like that. Really expensive cards. I got the hold of them there, and I really enjoyed the evening. And when I was coming back, it was dark, and there were black people standing before the litters, burning litters, and it was really dangerous there. And when I came to back to the hotel, the police was looking for me. I was nearly expelled from school by venturing into this dangerous part of the New York. So, but it was worth it definitely because I
Always
got
worth
my
it.
magic cards. Yeah,
There you
back then.
go.
So yes, so in the beginning, I would like to mention that I haven't children myself. However, my sister has got two children, 5 years old, and they spend a lot of time in front of the Minecraft, in front of the screens, either mobile phone or the PC. And it's very hard to get them away from these monitors and screens. And I try to encourage them to play with me outside because it's very important today to also play outside. And now, if you allow me to share my screen very briefly, I would like to show you something, guys. When I was younger, there was a game called Czechka, which is C, but there were also other. I believe you can see my screen, right? No,
Yes.
is it visible? So we used to go outside to the garden and we used to draw a line on the road, and we would step away and we would throw them, and who would throw closest to the line would gather or win these Cs, and they were very expensive at that time. And the same we would do with the clay balls, little balls like this. We would play the same. I believe you know this game as well. And so we would play a lot in the garden. We would play a lot outside on the bikes and so on, and not spend so much time before the Minecraft as the children today do. So this is why I try to encourage my
Yeah.
children to spend that time there.
And for those not watching the video podcast, the it looks like the game is so I think similar to horseshoes, if for those in the US that I know,
Exactly, exactly.
where instead of like whole horseshoes, it's more like the small rings, like links in a chain that you're throwing. And then the second game, very similar to marbles, I think is just simply what it was called, right? Where you just had, and so usually the marbles are like glass, but you said that the ones you play with are clay. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
So imagine clay marbles and trying to get them in a small circle. So okay.
Exactly, perfect. And if I may continue with your question, because it was
Yeah.
a very good question from your
Mhm.
side, I would maybe again for the last time today, I would share,
Sure.
or maybe not. We will see. There is
We'll
one
see.
else which I prepared, which is called the Phantom Staré Prahy. It was these games were also from the paper, and you would take the scissors and you would cut those games to in order to play it you need to cut it. So
So you had to have a pair of scissors to actually make or play the game to
yeah,
cut the
and there
papers.
is
Okay.
another thing which I would like to say. This is a strategic game. It looks like this. Again, you need to cut it first. We would have to cut it. Today is a new version where you don't need to cut it. It's pre-made.
Yeah,
So I will stop sharing.
that's right. That one,
I just wanted to show you guys this.
and I don't
So
know if it's the
this
same
is
game,
the
but it
second
looks like
stage of my life.
yeah, that one looks like Stratego, if you've heard that name.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I think that's the one, at least the US based one. That's what I've heard of it called, I think. So very cool, very fun game. But yeah, I haven't played that one in a while.
Mhm.
But great.
The
So
next stage of my yes, go on, please. Sorry,
I
sorry
was
to
gonna say, so
interrupt
so
you.
you've played, so you definitely had like that's kind of the games growing up, right? On the whether it's the board games and like you said, the backyard games. But you mentioned some computer games as well, right?
Yes, this was Paratrooper, where you are shooting down some soldiers coming from the airplanes. That was my first game. Then the Scorch, which you know probably, two tanks trying to annihilate each other in the landscape.
I remember Scorch. Yep.
Golden Axe, Doom number two, then the Eye of Beholder. Uh, Later came Diablo and Fallout, but that was later.
Yep.
And Dune. There was a strategy game, and
Dune.
later
Yep.
Command and Conquer Generals. I played a lot of games, Diablo 2, which I mentioned already. Sorry. So yes, I would also be great gamer. Oh, not great, but big gamer. I would say, spending a lot of time before the computer, and we would also play on the LAN or like multiplayers with my friends sometimes.
Yep.
Yes, but fortunately, I'm not so much addicted anymore to these games.
Yeah. So played a lot of games, and I've played a lot of those games too, whether it's Doom and Diablo and all. Yeah, so many fun games that you can play. The question I have for you then is, so what have you noticed being a gamer and having played all these games, whether it's the backyard, the board games, or the video games, what kind of skills or what kind of abilities do you believe that you have as a result of playing those that you've used in other areas of your life?
Yes, yes. I have been teaching English for 30 years. And for me, it's very part of the lesson is also gaming. Most of the people like it. There are some people who don't like it, but there are usually 1% or 2% of those people. Usually 99% of my students like gaming with me during the lessons. And we would be playing games like Taboo or describing the words which they learned, new words which they learned with other words. So gamification plays also a big part of my lesson in my professional craft.
Mhm.
And yes, this definitely, as I mentioned, I am playing a Magic the Gathering game tonight with my friend, so that's another hobby of mine. And I believe that the gaming, I see this in my children or the children of my sister, my niece and nephew, that they are very good at school. They are like very far ahead, because when they are gaming they are also learning. So it's about compromise, about the balance. Not gaming so much to be addicted, but also gaming a little bit to develop your skills, develop your intellect, and things like that. So I believe gaming is good.
I completely agree. So using gaming in the classroom, right? I think that is huge. So what better way to showcase kind of the power of gaming than to actually use it as a teaching tool, right? And that's some of what I've done with some of my clients for just like the coaching aspect of it as well. But you're talking like teaching kids, right, how to learn English and using gamification, right? And gamification simply meaning like how do we make it more fun, interesting, and engaging using these kind of game elements, right? So something like Taboo, very, very cool and interesting. And so how have you noticed, maybe compared to even other teachers of English? I don't know if there's other ones, that or in different schools or stuff like, how has gaming or gamification helped your students as compared to maybe other students that you've heard from other teachers?
Yes, yes. First of all, they are looking forward to the next lesson. This is very important that they try to go on and continue with me. It's good for me, and I believe it's good for them too. And besides, I believe they are practicing the imagination and practicing the memory and practicing abilities to express themselves faster and use the language. So I believe this gamification is good for them to be able to faster respond in the when they are in the business meeting or in the traveling somewhere. They are able to express themselves faster and accurately. So yes, it's fine. It's good. And
Yeah.
I don't know if other teachers do it. I try to teach other teachers to do it. So every time I meet a fellow teacher, I would tell them, hey, there is this, what I'm doing. I would like to share with you. Why don't you try it too? And I had a very good experience that they would thank me and they would say, hey, Jiri, this is really great. And thank you for advising me these games in my lessons.
Gotcha. And I think that showcases kind of the power right there too, that that other teachers are thanking you for this because like you said, it's really to the point of that level of engagement, right? We can say these kind of words like, oh, gamification helps with engagement, but when you can say and you have stories of like, oh yeah, the kids they want to learn, they're looking forward to the next lesson. I think is huge. Like how many kids do you know that like hate school? They don't want any part of it, right? And they're like, "Oh, but we look forward to your lessons." Yeah, Jerry, we want to be part of those, right? Because those are the fun ones. That is fantastic. I
Mhm.
I don't even know what to say other than just like amazing work that you're doing. Yeah, teaching kids through gamification because if we can get more people to want to learn, that is just so powerful because I think there is this kind of adage in school that it's kind of gotten away from this kind of sense of a lot of play, right? Because there's a whole world of that, and it's part of like I think that with psychology to say like you need that kind of time for play, you need that kind of time for fun because it is engaging to the mind, right? And it really helps. So
Mhm.
how can we get more of that? That's I think what part of what you're doing, right? Is like how do we get the kids engaged and actually want to learn, right?
Yes, exactly.
That is fantastic. So what is or I should say like what kind of examples do you have? So you mentioned like Taboo, right? As like one of the games, to play. So besides that one, like I guess what other ways are you doing that? Like what other ways are you gamifying learning English?
Mhm, 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 mhm. Yes, this is very easy. I don't do anymore, but this is inspiring for me to think about it. Maybe after this session, I will use artificial intelligence to brainstorm me some other trends for the gaming in my lessons. Thanks to you. Thank you, Daniel, for this tip
Here to
because
help.
this is really good. I'm not doing anything else, I must admit. I'm doing just the taboo. But I should do more and I should do new things. But what I try to do, I try to do like a themed taboo. So when we are
Mm.
learning about psychology, I try to do words with psychology. When we are learning about nuclear reactor, I know I'm exaggerating. I'm
Yeah,
doing the
yeah.
nuclear reactor words. You know what I mean. So if I'm doing a fairy tale, I'm doing the fairy tale words and stuff like that. So I should do more, and maybe we should be looking at the using the artificial intelligence to help us to improve our job, to make it better, to make it more to help us make it more interesting for our clients. It's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think AI is a great tool. I think there's a lot of discussion around how it's going to replace certain things, and I think the problem is you still need a human to kind of give kind of the yes or no, right? Because there's that, and we'll get on to like critical thinking, right? This kind of thinking skill that you get from playing games. Like you can get it, yeah, I mean, everybody has critical thinking skills, but like developing it through gaming, I think is just so powerful because that's something that you're actively doing when you're trying to, beat the level, beat the game. So having somebody kind of you want somebody kind of over the AI so it doesn't do things wrong because AI can get things wrong too. So you want somebody that kind of double checks it, if you will. But so using it as a tool is absolutely amazing. I think it does like shortcut or lessen the amount of time it takes to get to certain answers or to complete certain projects or work. So absolutely using it as kind of a brainstorming tool to say like, all right, how can I, just simply put into the prompt for like, what ways can I use gamification to teach a language, like to teach English? And you'd be surprised what it all comes up with, right? But
Yes, yes, exactly.
so yeah, I'm
There
looking
is
forward
one
to
more thing
what
I
else
would
you
like
bring.
to mention, if I may.
Yeah.
to share with you and maybe ask even for your opinion. And I know that you are leading this podcast, but I would be very curious to know your opinion about the collectible gaming. So I will give you an example. There is a game called Doom Trooper. It's a typical Czech game, and these are cards like Magic the Gathering. They are collectible cards, and this game was in the 90s, 1990. It was uh, very popular, but now it's not played anymore, and only some collectors have it. And
Mhm.
it's really increasing on price because it didn't continue. However, Magic the continue Gathering goes on. It continues. New editions are coming. So, what is your opinion about collectible gaming? Do you have some more examples about this, or what comes to your mind? Because it's a very huge thing today, I think.
Yeah, I think the collectible games, and especially these kind of collectible card games, right? And of course, there's the big ones. There's the Pokemon trading card game.
Yes, yes.
There's Yu-Gi-Oh!
Hmm.
And one that I played back in the day. So when right around when Magic came out, like not very long after, Magic the Gathering came out, there was a Star Wars customizable card game.
Yes,
I
yes.
think I think that's just what it was called, was Star Wars customizable card game, or the customized, so Star Wars TCG.
Yes,
I think
yes.
that's what it was.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes.
And and being Star Wars, you're like, well, it has a really big IP behind it, so it's going to do really well. And it did for a while. But the problem with the Star Wars one, to me, was that they made it overly complicated, right? Because they wanted to be different from Magic the Gathering, because, like, I guess, they didn't want to get sued, right? They copyright issue. So they're going to make it different. The problem is that Magic, I think, was tuning it to be very playable, very, simple. Now they have gotten way more complicated over the years because of how many expansions and all the different things. But so I will say it started out more simple, and Star Wars, I think, had to complicate it more just to make it different, and it ended up leading to, I guess, too much confusion. And then there was a lot of rule, changes of bending. I remember being part of a one of those, went to Gen Con, for those that know that one, in Indianapolis, one of these big gaming conventions for board games and card games. And I remember there was a Star Wars, like kind of tournament, I guess. And they're like, "Oh yeah, you're going to play with these decks," but there was specific cards where like you're not allowed to use the rule text. I was like, the rules are printed on the card. It's like, yeah, yeah, but they don't work in this deck, or they don't, or they're way overpowered or something. So you're not allowed to use that. I'm like, what? So we have to make rules around what's printed on the card, and you're like, this is ridiculous, right? So
Yes, yes.
I felt like I was one of the only people that knew what the attrition system was in that game. And comment down below if you know what I'm talking about. Uh, the point is that that game, while Star Wars did carry it, it did kind of fall off a cliff in terms of popularity after certain expansions. So you can find those cards, but to your point, it's a lot of collectors now. And so it depends on really the collectors, if it's worthwhile to them, and especially the rarity of the cards, right? So there's definitely certain cards that are worth a lot, uh, but being kind of I'll call it a dead game, the overall amount of like what you could potentially get for it, I think is just going to slowly go down over time. Because like it'll get to a point where like the collectors want it, and then at some point, the people that are collecting it are going to get to the point where like, and maybe it's just simply they're getting too old and they don't care anymore, because that the younger generations have never even heard of the game. So things will go up in value to a certain point, and then they'll start dropping off again because the relevance is just gone to me.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So I think making sure it is, so what is that tipping point? That's hard to tell. To me, I'm just not sure on that one, but it's definitely something I would, yeah, you definitely can hold on to it for a while, while the either the cards or the IP is still valid. It's still like in people's minds. So like the Star Wars IP is still very much around. And people can argue how, if the sequel trilogy did more damage than it should have, but that's a different conversation. But the point is
Yes,
Star
yes.
Wars is still around. So the cards still have some inherent value to them for that reason. But as a customizable card game, it's just dead. So it's like, at what point does that does that cost factor into it? I think to your point, like Magic the Gathering being an ongoing card game, those like early editions and certain prints and everything are worth a lot because it is an active game and you could technically play with them and they're just extremely rare. So in addition to the I'll call it the collectability, there's also just simply the playability, right? And the rarity. So I
Yes,
hope
yes,
that answers
exactly.
your question. But if
Yes,
you have some
definitely. Thank you.
questions, let me know.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, any specific questions around the customizable card game?
No, no, no. It's clear. Everything is
Okay.
clear. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I wanted to talk a little bit on like kind of the collectability of video games too. I wanted to get kind of your initial thoughts as far as like, so if we hold on to the Magic cards for a long time, they could be worth more. But what do you think about video games?
Yes, there is. There are. I was looking at the pawn shop series on YouTube, and there guy came to the pawn shop and he said, "I got this game," and it was like sealed. So there was
Hmm.
an original cover, and it was sealed in a plastic. And the guy said, the owner of the shop said, "We would like to buy it. We will give you a lot of money for it because it's sealed and because it's in the original cover." So these are also important. All my games, which I have, were either now they were copies from my friends or they were originals. But if you got any original games, like really sealed even, so this should be expensive, I think. So yes, yes, original games in the sealed version. I think this is my own opinion. But also there is what was this? I think it was even in the bunch of it was even the Star Wars game. I don't know. I don't remember. I think it was. So yeah, that's all my that's all comes to my mind about
Yeah,
this.
that's no, I agree. I think if it's in original packaging, that's definitely worth a lot to the collectors, right? And but as far as just wanting to play the game, like just going back and trying to buy an old game, there's other ways around that now. So just a random shout out, not sponsored or anything by GOG, yeah, Good Old
Yes,
Games.
yes, yes.
I've gotten into some of those recently where it's just like, oh yeah, I haven't played this game in like 20, 30 years or something like that. Let me try this out. And it's just they make it so that you can play some of these old games, like whether on like the old Windows or old DOS games that you can play
Yes, yes,
on a modern
yes,
computer now, because
yes.
otherwise they wouldn't run.
Yes,
So
exactly. Yes. DOSBox, I think it's called.
DOS
Yeah,
box,
yeah.
yep, exactly. Yeah, so
Hmm.
so definitely if you want to check out some old games just to play, yeah, good old games will definitely help with that. Yeah, speaking of Star Wars, I was into those the Star Wars flight simulators
Yes.
called X-Wing and TIE
Hmm.
Fighter, if you remember
Hmm.
those.
No,
Where
no, I don't. Hmm.
because those you actually get to fly the ship like it's from the cockpit view and you
Yes,
actually
I remember. Yes, I
yeah.
remember, but I didn't play that
You can play
much.
that because the old X-Wing it did come like you said on the little floppy disks, right? And
Hmm.
you're right, it had like five of them. So if you want to
Yes, yes,
install the game,
exactly.
you had to keep swapping out disks, right? In like the little floppies. So oh my
And this
gosh.
is also interesting, Daniel, that was with the time going. First, we were those floppy disks, diskettes. Then there was a CD, I believe. Then there was a DVD. Now it's a flash card. And because some people would like to listen to our podcast, for example, in 20 years, there could be put on YouTube or on Spotify. However, these giants may not exist in 20, 30 years. So we
Yeah.
don't know where this is like even the cloud today is like questionable. So what is the future of these mediums? It's a question for another podcast, probably.
Yeah, that could be a whole nother podcast topic right there. Yeah, for sure. Just how the different mediums have changed because how people predict it'll go is usually never the way it goes, right? And
Yes,
that was
yes.
always interesting too. The just as an example for those that may not know or to remind them. We think in 2025 and 2026 it's all about streaming services, right? Do you want to watch movies, TV shows, even some gaming stuff, right? It's all streaming, it's all online. It
Yes,
didn't used to be. And in
yes,
fact, especially for like the movies and stuff, it was all on DVDs. And before that, it was, VHS, right? So you had the physical drives, the physical discs. And when we moved to streaming, people didn't realize how that was going to go because the biggest debate I remember, what was it, early 2000s, was was Blu-ray versus HD DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably a lot of people that don't even know what HD DVD is,
Mm-hmm.
which I think was a format by, I want to say Microsoft, or at least they
Mm-hmm.
supported it. And
Mm-hmm.
so you had Blu-ray versus HD DVD. So people have probably heard of Blu-ray because it won. But I always thought it was interesting that the Blu-rays, the reason I think Blu-ray won, just by as an aside, is because of the PS3, the PlayStation 3,
Yes,
because
yes, yes.
it was the cheapest Blu-ray player on the market. Because when Blu-ray came out, you could buy a Blu-ray player for like $1,200 or something, or you could buy a PlayStation 3 for like $600. And, and people were like, wow, that's really expensive for a console, but it's really cheap for a Blu-ray player.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I used to work at a GameStop, and I remember selling PS3s to people because of that feature alone.
Yes, yes, yes.
It was just so funny. And then, but it was always that question, be like, oh, who's going to win, Blu-ray or HD DVD? And while Blu-ray kind of won, neither of them really won because it went to streaming, right? Who won? Netflix. Yeah, Netflix
Mm-hmm.
won when they
Mm-hmm.
started streaming.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so bizarre to think that now it's commonplace. Now it's like, oh yeah, you boot up whether it's your Apple TV or your the Roku, the Netflix, of course. And there's a gazillion streaming services now. There didn't used to be. There used to be one, and before that, obviously zero. So it's just amazing how things can change.
And from the business point of view, I will add to something what you are saying is the subscription model, which is for Netflix and other. This is the way to go business, like subscriptions. So, and before, by the way, I see behind you. I sorry to mention this, but I must because I really love it. There is some collectible behind you, some manga, right? It's a. Is it manga?
Yes. Yeah, so I got for those not able to see the video, so yeah, behind me I have my gaming and my manga setup, right? Just kind of in the
Yes,
background. So I
yes.
have lots of Nintendo games and Super Nintendo games, and
Mm,
yeah, there's even PlayStation and
yes, yes.
64. I got all the
Mm-hmm.
consoles on that side. And then on this side I do have I do enjoy Japanese anime and manga, so I do have some manga on
Yes,
my shelf too. So
yes, yes.
absolutely.
There was my friend, one of my friends, 7 years old, was
Mhm.
a friend of my nephew. He was explaining to me what's the difference between Japanese manga. There was a one was like there are two things which are typical, and I don't remember how he was explaining the difference to me. That one is a film and one is a comic book or something, and it's called different.
Mhm.
And he was really into it, and he was 7 years old, and he knew everything about it. So it was interesting.
That's awesome. Yeah, but so I think you're the first person that's noticed the manga on the shelf, right? That's most people notice the video games first, but
Yes,
no,
yes,
you're the
yes,
first
yes.
person that's noticed the manga. So that's awesome. But gosh, so I know we could spend hours talking about this kind of stuff, but I want to make sure that we don't miss anything. So, is there anything else about gaming that you've noticed that's really helped your life, or just as you can see it, like I said, either as compared to somebody else that you know that maybe doesn't play games, that things that you think that you're better at, or just things that you're inherently understand easier or better because of playing games?
I would like to encourage all the children, but not only children, but also to adults to game. However, watch the balance in your life. So if you
Mhm.
wanna game, spend sometimes gaming outside and sometimes before the screen, so that to balance it, so that you are not you are balancing your gaming. So that you have the fresh air as well and play outside and not only in front of the screen. This is my message for today.
No, I love that. That's kind of how I felt like growing up too, is that I'd say my parents, I think, did a good job of that, or I definitely was in the screen playing the games a lot, but they did kind of kick me outside to go play sometimes. But I think I'm better for it too. So, I completely agree with you. And I think I encourage people the same, right? To everything about this podcast is yes, gaming is valuable. At the same time, yes, let's balance that to say like too much of a good thing not necessarily a good thing, right? Too much chocolate cake. Yeah, maybe
Yes.
not, but no, but just simply understanding that there is a balance in life, and so understanding that we definitely enjoy our games, and this podcast is a showcase that gaming is valuable outside of just mere escapism or even just entertainment. It does so much more, but let's balance that with being well rounded and understanding that that gaming is not everything. So
Yes,
no,
exactly.
I love that.
Mhm.
So no, thank you, Jerry. And is there anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap up for this particular episode?
Yes, I would like to say that I really enjoyed talk with you. I would like to invite you to my podcast as well because I have my studio as well. We didn't talk about many things today, like for example chess, Monopoly, and other things. We didn't have time to
That's
do it. However, I would
so
like
many
to
games.
talk
Yeah.
with you more deeper about this topic other time in the future. I
Yeah.
enjoyed. Thank you very much for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Jerry. And so guys, if you enjoyed Jerry on the podcast, make sure to let me know down in the comments. Maybe we'll have him back for a future episode. Fantastic. All right. So before we go, Jerry, I have one final question for you. And that is, what is your favorite video game?
Yes, yes, video game. It is probably GOTS. It's a
Which one?
DOS game, GOTS, GODS. GOTS, it's coming from the old Greeks, and it's a person in the labyrinth. You can see him walking through the labyrinth and killing other monsters.
Uh-huh.
And there are like 3 or 5 levels. Or Xenon number two. These two games, those games were very, I spent a lot of time playing. Xenon number two and the GOTS, GODS. These two games are my favorite.
Got it. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look those up too because that's yeah. I've played some DOS games, of course, back in the day, but I don't know if I remember those. So I'm gonna check it out. So, guys,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, Jerry. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast and just kind of sharing your wisdom and I hope you put more of the gamification into the into your the teaching aspect of it too because I think that there's definitely some cool things you can do there. So I'm very excited to see what you come up with there, and maybe that'll be the topic for the next podcast. So. Fantastic. So, guys, and for those watching, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.